This is the Harry Loomis Show.
Welcome back to the Harry Loomis Show. Happy New Year. Today is Monday, January 13th of 2025. I have not been able to make a Blues video since December 14th when the Blues acquired Cam Fowler. Just a lot going on in the past month or so, but I'm finally able to sit down and talk about this team a little bit. I have not really been able to do a full deep dive into this team since Jim Montgomery took over. And have the results been since Montgomery took over? Yeah, pretty good. Not great. Montgomery's got a record of 11-8-3 in 22 games since the Blues, or since he took over the Blues after the firing of Drew Bannister. And a couple of things have been. You've noticed a couple changes. First off, the top six has started to produce a little bit better. They still don't have all of the pieces producing the way you need to in order to be really a strong team. Pavel Buchnevich in particular is having a bit of a rough year. He's had flashes, but ultimately 29 points in 42 games for a guy that you just signed to $8 million when he's been a point per game player in recent years for the Blues is not an ideal situation. Robert Thomas returned from his injury and looks just fine. He's at 33 points in 32 games, has kept his scoring touch up as well. He's averaging right around a goal every 3 games. Jordan Kyrou has had a really good run lately. He is expected to be this team's leader offensively, and he's been stepping up so far. 38 points in 44 games, perfectly split up, 19 goals, 19 assists. One guy that I've really been enjoying to watch as of late has been Dylan Holloway. He got the hat trick against Detroit right before Christmas as well, and he's really found a role on that second line. I really like what Montgomery's done. Kyrou and Holloway playing on the same line at second line, centered by Braden Shen. There's a lot of speed there and some accountability with Shen on the back end as well. Shen doesn't exactly have the scoring touch he used to have. 24 points in 44 games isn't great for a second line center, but the wingers I've been especially happy with as of late. I watched the team play in Columbus last Saturday. The game the Blues lost 6-4, and I had not seen Holloway play in person, and I had a really good time watching him. He just got speed for days, the exact same as Kyrou. He was probably the most dangerous Blues player in those first 2 periods in particular before they scored 4 in the third period, trying to mount a comeback that ultimately came short. But Holloway is just as fun to watch in person as he is on TV, which is pretty nice to see. Zach Bolduc has started playing just about every single game. He's found a role on that third line. And I've liked what I've seen so far. It was a really big statement for him, and it felt good for him. That first game, Montgomery took over, him playing on that third line and banking 2 goals. Those were really big for the Blues. Another guy that's been struggling this year has been Brandon Saad. He scored goals in 3 games all year long, but it was a 2-goal game, a 2-goal game, and then a hat trick last Friday against Ottawa. And there's a lot of talk about Brandon Saad potentially being out of town. Now there's talks about him possibly staying around. I like Brandon Saad. I've always rooted for him. He's never going to cheat you on effort. He always kind of has been this hot and cold scorer. He's been cold pretty much all year long, but he has been producing in other ways. He's always responsible defensively. He's battling. He's working to try to get the puck. You could do worse than Brandon Saad, but as a first line left winger, it's not exactly what you want. On that first line, I would like to see a guy like Bolduc or a guy like Neighbors stay cemented to the left of Robert Thomas, with Pavel Buchnevich probably on the right side, but that'll come with time. And it's a tough spot for the Blues to be in particular because, in my mind, the 2 biggest needs that this team has are another center, probably a second line or third line center, ideally to move Braden Shen down. And I think this team really needs a right-handed one-time option. The Blues have 3 right-handed forwards in general. Robert Thomas, who is not a one-timer, especially in the power play. He's a quarterback. He likes to be on that right side. Jordan Kyrou plants himself on that left wing, but he's not really a one-timer. He's kind of a catch the puck, slow it down, and then fire it home. Kind of like how Vladimir Tarasenko wasn't really a one-timer, but he was automatic from that dot. And then the third one's Oscar Sundqvist, who's not playing on the power play at all. This team's power play has not been good. I think they could really use a one-time option. They have it on the left side. But those 2 things, second, third line center, and a one-time option at forward, Armstrong's not going to fix those, because he's been on record saying that he's not going to make additions that are going to affect the young guys that are coming in to potentially take a spot away from them. And the Blues' two biggest prospects right now are Dalibor Dvorsky, who is a center and will slot perfectly into that second or third line option as a center, and Jimmy Snuggerud, who is a bona fide sniper with a right-handed shot, who will probably end up with the Blues after the Golden Gophers, their season ends in college hockey. So the fact that you have those two options in the system right now, Army's been on record saying it doesn't make sense to try to make those additions right now, especially if there's a non-zero chance that we could see both of them by the end of the year. So it's a tough spot to be in. Blues are kind of having to work with what they've got. And as frustrating as that is, there are some bright spots. I didn't even mention how good Cam Fowler's been with the Blues. He went from, I think, 2 assists all year long in Anaheim to 10 points in 14 games. And just a really, really smart defenseman. Just brings so much stability to that back end. Philip Broberg as well has been fantastic. I feel better about the Blues top four than I have in a long time, probably since Jay Bouwmeester's career ended. Justin Falk is probably the weakest of the top four right now, which isn't too much of a surprise. There's not a lot of options to upgrade there, so you're kind of having to work with what you got. I'm still not happy with Scott Perunovich's playing time. I don't like Tyler Tucker getting these games over him. We'll see what continues to happen with that as that plays out. Earlier, when the Blues hired Jim Montgomery, I really compared him to Ken Hitchcock coming into the team, and Army did kind of too. He, a veteran coach with a lot of experience, where you have a very good NHL coach, and you can make fixes to the roster accordingly, knowing that there's no question mark there. And I kind of knew when I was saying that wasn't exactly a perfect comparison. Hitchcock has always coached. He always coached kind of a slower, more defensive, conservative game. It was also when scoring was down in the league, so the Blues weren't exactly a high-octane team. That year that Hitchcock came in, the Blues scored not a lot of goals. I think David Backes led the team with 24 goals that year. But the Blues as a whole only had 206 goals, which was 21st in the league. And Montgomery's the exact opposite. He is a offensive guy. We saw what he did with the power play when he was the assistant coach under Berube. He has so much faith in guys like Buchnevich, like Thomas, like Kyrou, like Shen, like Holloway, and you can see it. But the difference between those two, especially this year, is that Hitchcock's first year, the Blues had no hyperbole, generational goaltending. The combination of Yaroslav Halak and Brian Elliott was unbelievable that year. They allowed a total of 155 goals in 82 games, which I'm pretty sure has not been beaten in a full season since then, along with 15 shutouts. They were otherworldly. Brian Elliott in particular, a .940 save percentage every single night. It wasn't a matter of are the Blues going to win. Is it whoever's playing, are they going to get a shutout? They were that good that year, and Jim Montgomery has not gotten that kind of goaltending this year. The Blues have allowed 133 goals already this year in 44 games. That is 20th out of 32 teams. And the goaltending it's just not been good enough between Jordan Binnington and Joel Hofer. Hofer's stats are better, a 902 to Binnington's 897, but they have both had really rough performances as of late. Just looking at the Blues games under Jim Montgomery, 5 goals against the Rangers, win. 3 goals against the Devils, win. 2 goals against the Flyers, loss. 4 goals and a win. 4 goals and a win. 2 goals and a loss. 4 goals and a win. 3 goals and a loss. 1 goal and an overtime loss. 3 goals and a win. 1 goal and a loss. 1 goal and a loss. Keeping it going. 1 goal and a loss as well. 4 goals and a win. 7 goals and a win. 2 goals and a loss. 6 goals and a win. 4 goals and a loss. 4 goals and a win. 4 goals and a loss. 6 goals and a win. 1 goal and a loss. The Blues are at the point right now where they have to score 4 goals to feel like they're going to win, and you're not able to do that every night. And then some nights it's still not good enough, like Hofer giving up 5 goals and then the empty netter Columbus, a couple really bad goals in particular. Just looking at the stats, thanks to Jay Fresh Hockey for these stats as well. He always does a good job getting these graphics out. The Blues' goals scored above expected is 9th in the league. They've scored 9 more goals than expected to this year, which is always encouraging to see, especially how they started the year. But the goals saved above expected is tanking at 27th. They have allowed 12.1 more goals than expected this year. And the goal differential above expected, the Blues sit 18th in the league at minus 3.2. Now, I get it. Goalies are very inconsistent historically. And I was even pumping the tires for Binnington to get traded and have Joel Hofer become the starter because they both put up 913 save percentages. I had that much faith in Hofer going into this season, and both of them have taken a step back. And I get it. Sometimes it's not all their fault. The Blues are not 100% absolved with their defensive issues. There's still some goals where you look at and you say Binnington or Hofer had no chance on that. You got to protect the net front. Here's screen, rebound, things like that. But at some point, you just need saves, and the Blues are getting fewer saves above expected than all but 5 teams in the NHL this year, and that is simply not good enough. I don't know what the fix is for the Blues, but it starts on the back end. The Blues right now, according to MoneyPuck, have just a 23.7% chance of making the playoffs. They are 4 points behind the Canucks for the last wildcard spot, but the Canucks have 2 games in hand, and the Blues are not catching any of the top 4 teams in the Central Division. That's just a fact. Minnesota, Dallas, Winnipeg, and Colorado have all been pretty good this year, and the Blues just have too much of a gap. And I don't see any way. The Avs are 4th right now, and their goaltending has gotten much better since they upgraded. I don't think there's any chance the Blues catch them, if I'm being honest with you. The Blues have a worse playoff percentage chance of making it than all but 5 teams in the Western Conference this year. That's the Predators, the Kraken, the Ducks, the Blackhawks, and the Sharks. It's not going to happen this year. It's that simple. I think the Blues are too far gone. There's some teams in the Western Conference that I thought were borderline that are doing better than I expected, and the teams I expected to be good, aside from Nashville, are really doing so. It was always a matter of can the Blues get one of those 2 wildcard spots, and right now it looks like the answer is going to be no. And that's going to be 3 straight years without a playoff appearance. So where do the Blues go from here? They have about 3 months left. There's not a lot of potential trade pieces for the Blues this year. A lot of people have been talking about a guy like Brandon Saad. I don't know what's going to happen with him. I really don't know what to expect. But this year, there's parts that make you feel optimistic. There are young pieces that have been developing nicely. Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg in particular have been really pleasant surprises. Cam Fowler has been an awesome addition. There's also been some that have been disappointments. I expected more out of Matthew Joseph this year. I expect a little bit more out of Alex Texia this year. Ryan Suter's been fine. Radek Fox has been just fine. It's good to see him come back from his injury. But you didn't expect both goalies to put up a 913 again, especially with how inconsistent Binnington's been. But you certainly didn't expect the drop-off that you've ended up getting. As a total, the Blues have an 899 goals save percentage this year, 2.85 goals against between the two of them. They're right around the same in that. It's just not good enough. And I don't see, unless they make a meteoric change in these last 3 months, it's going to be a 3rd straight year without playoff hockey in St. Louis, which is disappointing to see. I really did kick the tires. I was on the bandwagon. I thought they were going to make it this year, and it just hasn't worked out. There's things to look forward to, but ultimately 3 years with no playoffs is not what we've come to expect as St. Louis Blues fans. So we're going to continue to talk about this team when we can. We'll see what happens by the next update. Thank you guys once again for watching. My name is Harry Loomis, and we will talk to you again soon.
This is the Harry Loomis Show.